Man, we're live, brother.
We're live.
It's that simple, folks. Sorry we're running a little bit late. We're using a new streaming service called StreamYard, and it's pretty cool. We got a lot of fun little graphics. Like, for example, my name is Dathan Aragon. I am the CEO of All City Real Estate. Thank you for joining us. And then we got...
My name is Dathan Scannell. I'm the CTO of All City Real Estate. I just saw on our live, by the way, they did catch my last sip of Topo Chico, which I try not to do because on lives, because Topo makes you a little burpy, you know.
Nice, folks. So today, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We wanted to come on here. We're going to do this on Thursdays, right? The idea is sometimes it may be live, but we all know we have very busy schedules, so we may just be posting a new one of these on Thursdays. But I promise you, whether it's live or whether it's pre-recorded, guys, it's going to be some really great information. And that's what we're talking about today. Really great information. We know we are in a market shift, folks. Things are changing. Properties aren't flying off the shelf like they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, for the last 10 years, for that matter. Interest rates are going up, and according to Damian Squires at MyMorgo, they hit 7.1% today, which historically is still very low, but compared to the last 10 years, it's double. So buyer pool may have diminished a little bit, shrunk down in size. We're still, having some supply issues, but, that's likely to correct itself as well. So the reality is things are changing, guys. Things are changing. And it's very, very clear that some of the strategies that we've used in our business to generate leads, to get business, we have to rethink those, right? Part of being at All City is you have to adopt the idea that I must adapt. One thing that I always like to say is be the company that will put you out of business, right? So in times like this, based on my experience, Nathan, you can back me up here. Guys, people get out of the business, because you have to put in the work. You have to get back to the fundamentals. You have to put in the work. So a lot of agents just aren't willing to do that. They get into real estate because they think, this is going to be a great way for me to make tons of disposable income and, I don't have to do anything, right? Well, maybe the last few years that might have been the case, but that is not the case today. So that's why Nathan and I are here. Kevin and I are going to be doing videos on and live broadcasts on things that are contract related, legal stuff, that sort of business called Agent IQ. And then Nathan and I are going to be talking about business strategies, making that shift, pivoting, whatever needs to be done in order for you to continue the success that you've experienced in the past. So today's show is baby steps, right? Nathan, you want to talk a little bit about what we mean by baby steps?
Absolutely. And what it was inspired by. It was actually,
more importantly, right?
Oddly enough, inspired by a conversation I had during Super Bowl. I won't call these people out on our public forum here, but we have some friends that shortly after Christmas, basically, I think it was between Christmas and then like maybe a week after New Year, they're having a ton of work done on their garage. And we saw them and they were like, yeah, we're getting the floors redone. We're using the third bay, the tandem area of our garage to make a home gym. They had a power or squat rack. They had a treadmill on the way. They had all these weights, dumbbells, everything. Basically, their entire home gym was completed, I would say, within the first week of the year. And Super Bowl Sunday, we asked them, hey, how's it going? And they had worked out 2 times. So, I mean, all in all, if I had to guess, just garage epoxy, for a 3-car garage I mean, easy couple grand, you know, then you start talking treadmill and everything else that they had. Just a ton of money dumped into it. And it actually kind of had me thinking, because I actually went on my own workout journey like a year and a half ago, and I went about it in a different way than that. And I actually started thinking about it in terms of our CRM, which I'll get into in a second. But what I did to start working out, and I now consistently do that like 5 days a week, was I told myself, look, you're going to just do basically just like push-ups and dips on a chair and air squats for a month. And if you can do that, then you can get a pull-up bar. And once you start doing pull-ups for X amount of time, then you can get like a power tower to be able to do pull-ups and dips. And then once you do that, and basically it kind of evolved, and it took about 6 months. And by the time we started looking into things, we basically did that to our garage. We put down flooring, we got like a bench, all this stuff. But the point is that I took baby steps to do it. I didn't just say, hey, I'm going to go do this. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, all right, here's the new goal. If I can stick to this for 90 days, we're going to buy this. And then once I could stick to that, we're going to do this. And it really made me start to think about our CRM offerings. As you guys know, we offer KB Core and Top Producer. So Top Producer, we can't see exactly what you guys are doing just because of the way we set it up. We wanted you guys to have full control. We don't have any insight on it, but we talk to our rep, and our rep confirms our data that we get from KB Core. And what we found is I put down 95% of our agents aren't using their CRM. The reality is 95% of you guys haven't even logged in 30 days. Dathan and I were talking about this 2 days ago, and we were saying, you know, the numbers are actually worse than that, because the majority of people haven't even logged in. More than 95% of people have not logged in 2 weeks. And for a CRM, that's horrible numbers, right? If you haven't logged in 2 weeks, I'm sorry, but you're not using your CRM.
So no, it should be something every day you log in. Yeah,
exactly. It should be habit. You log in. And so basically we wanted to make this easy on you guys. And we got to talking. We were like, all right, well, how would we baby step people into this? And within the past 2 weeks, we've actually started telling everyone on our orientation calls, and then everyone that I talk to trying to sign up for All City Select or KB Core, we actually tell them, don't sign up for the CRM yet. Please join us on this live. Please watch what we're about to post, because it sucks signing someone up. You know, Top Producer is an additional $50 a month for you guys. And I know that 95% of the time, you're not even going to use it. You're just going to give us $50 a month for who knows how long. Some people last 3 months, some people last a year, and you never use it. And I mean, that really adds up. And the reality is a CRM is very useful. It can be very handy. It can actually help get you business, but you have to use it. So we started our baby steps program, and that's why we're here today. And we have some stats to throw up for you guys. The reasons why. I think I lost controls.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Yeah, that's okay. We were going to have some fancy overlays for you, but it seems like we
got the first two in. We got the first two in, so that works.
Technology, folks. Okay, so just shoot, Nathan. Let's get to the stats, man. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so I mean, for this, it was our big thing was we started looking at it, and it was like, why do we want to talk to you guys about this? We obviously want you guys to do more deals. And when you go look at the NAR stats, the numbers were actually pretty good for 2022 and 2021 because business was really, really good. The average agent actually did 12 deals a year. Mm-hmm. To compare that to previous years, all the years before that, the average agent did about 6 deals a year, which means that the average agent that means 50% of agents do less than 6 deals a year. So even in a great market, just like we had in 2021, 2022, I should say half of 2022, right? Not necessarily all of 2022. Even still, 50% of agents weren't even doing a deal a month. And so that really stuck out to us. And we said, okay, well, this is something that we really want to address, especially with the vast majority of not only our agents, but all agents do business via their database. So how can we help you guys? And the other thing is we wanted to point out is, why should you actually use a CRM? And just let you guys know, this is going to be an ongoing deal that we're going to do. This is probably going to be, what did we decide, a 3 or 4 or 5 part series that we're going to do. And then we're just going to rinse and repeat. We want to get your guys' live discussion on this as well. But really, why should you use it? Go ahead. You were going to
No, well, and again, just to highlight your point here, guys, it's baby steps. We do not want you investing money or time, for that matter, into something that you don't use or that you maybe would need a plan to use. And that's kind of what we want to do, because the most important thing is here, guys, for any scalable business, if you're only doing, 1 or 2, 3, less than 10 deals a year, I would say, then maybe you don't need a CRM. But if you're doing any more than that, you need some kind of way of organizing these clients, right? Whether it's top producer, it doesn't matter. They always say the best CRM is one that you use. So really, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to present to you a series of baby steps that are going to create the habits that will have you logging into your system, whatever that is, more than once a month, once every 2 months, right? Because it's our belief that that is something that you should be checking in on every single day, correct?
Correct. And with CRMs, we get it. One of the things, we're not going to talk about it today, because again, this is baby steps, so we're not going to throw all this at you at once. But one of the things with CRMs is they can be very, very, very cumbersome, overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff that's in CRMs that personally, Dathan and I, we look at them and like, why do they even have all of this stuff in there? It's completely useless. I would say probably 80% of what is inside of a CRM is absolutely useless. And it's funny because you call these CRM companies and they try to sell you on all these little extra things that they do, right? We'll track your commission and all this stuff. And it always cracks me up. I'm like, okay, for you to track an agent's commission inside of your CRM, that means that the agent has to go plug in that information. And it's like, you guys already use Workspace for that to plug in all your transactions. You shouldn't be using your CRM then to dump that information. It's just extra work for you. And we get that with a CRM. There's just tons of just garbage, basically. You don't need all of that. And so we want to break this down for you guys in using your CRM.
So, guys, we've come up with kind of 3 points that we think are really important here in order to sort of get the ball rolling, right? The first one, let me see how this comes up. Boom. Organize your clients. Now, Nathan, let's talk about this for a second, because I know one hurdle that we often see are agents coming to us saying, I don't have 100 people.
I don't have a
database. I don't have
a
database,
right? Yeah.
or I don't have one, right? And so let's talk a little bit about what that means, what that looks like when we hear that. And let's give a couple examples of folks that have an amazing business with very few clients in their database.
Yeah. So this is something that always cracks us up whenever we hear this. Agents either saying they don't have a database, which to me, I'm like, okay, well then what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? You don't have any friends. You don't have anybody you hang out with at all. So that's the one thing that always cracks me up. But the other thing is when we sit down and speak with agents that we would consider to be, I guess, successful, right? As an industry, we would consider them to be successful. And when I say that, I'm talking agents who have a nice referral-based business that are, let's call it, they're working anywhere between 30 to 60 hours a week. Some of you might be like cracking up at that because you might be like doing way more hours than that. And also agents that are, doing multiple 6 figures, either doing, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. When I speak to these agents with databases, I always here's something that I think is very interesting that I think a lot of people don't understand. Most of their databases are less than 100 people. And I think a lot of people are always blown away by that, right? Well, how can you do that much business? How can you do, that much in gross commission when you have less than 100 people? And the reality is they just have a strong database that they communicate with and refers them on a regular basis. I've worked with agents in the past that have had a database. Really, it's just an email list of 2,500 clients. The reality is they don't know any of those people at all. It's just an email list. And the funny thing is majority of the time they're not even doing anything with that email list. And you think about it, there's no way one agent could even manage that many people. It's just not possible. You think, you might have said this on orientation. I don't think we said it today, but the average client will refer you 1 to 3 times after you've helped them do a transaction. So whether it's a buyer or seller, this is per the National Association of Realtors, they'll refer you 1 to 3 times within the first year.
And that's average, guys.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the steps to ensure that you're delivering value, then that number could double. That's our intent. We want you to establish these meaningful connections, quality over quantity. And I think that's kind of our key point here. So when Nathan speaks of an agent that has 80 people in their database, but they're hyper focused on those 80 people, they are focused on delivering value to those 80 people, then you're going to win all day with those people, and they are going to refer you. Because, think about it. How many times does someone ask you about real estate? Whether you own a house, do you lease? That's a relatively common topic of conversation, is about real estate. And, it's my opinion that is the path to wealth. So even if you have a high paying job, people don't necessarily think of the stock market as, oh, I'm going to get rich off the stock market. That's more of a plan B. That's kind of a retirement long term. But when they talk about creating real wealth, having an influx of cash, that often is accomplished through real estate. So everybody needs to be talking about it. And you want to make sure, Nathan, we have this quote. Let me see.
We do. There it is.
Bam.
Are you sure your database is talking about you?
Yeah. So are you 100% confident that your database thinks of you when they think of real estate?
Yeah.
And that's really what we're talking about here, man. That concentration of attention to your database, quality versus quantity, right?
Yep. And what's funny, in the San Antonio event we did last month, I had made a joke about how, we're not trying to teach you guys corny scripts and to call your database. And, one of the corny scripts we always heard was, hey, when you think of real estate, will you think of me? And inadvertently at the end of the training, my very last line was, hey, like, when your database thinks of real estate, do they think of you? And it kind of made everybody laugh, because it was like, well, wait a second, that's that corny script that we're not supposed to say. So it's kind of like, you don't want to call your database and say that, but you have to ask yourself, if I put out this list of people and I write them all down, or I put them in an Excel spreadsheet, do they truly think of me when it comes to real estate? Or have I not spoken to these people at all? If you help someone sell their home, I would say even a year ago, there's a chance they might not think of you when it comes to real estate if you have not spoken to them. We had an agent that we put through a 90-day boot camp. And one of the things, she really, really, really wanted to do internet leads. And we convinced her basically not to. And we told her, hey, you need to start calling your database. And she she turned herself into a 6-figure earner in 90 days. And she had one client that she called. And I hate anecdotal evidence, by the way, guys. If you've ever heard me talk, I will always say this. I always give the example of the realtor who wears their name tag into the grocery store, and they always have a story about, I was at the grocery store checkout and somebody came up to me and said, I'd like to buy a home. I hate that story, but it happens. But I don't consider this one to be anecdotal evidence because I've heard of this a lot of times happening. But we had her call her database, and she had sold a guy a home a year before. And she said, look, I would have never have called this guy, but I called him, asked him how he was doing. And he said, I'm so glad you called. I'm engaged, and my fiance and I are looking to buy another home and put the home that you helped me purchase up for lease. And we were about to go with her agent. And they chose to go with our agent because I think the fiance's agent she was like a new agent who had never done any deals. And, his argument was, hey, like, she helped me buy this house. She got me a great deal on it. But she called me and she was like, I would have never have gotten that deal had you made me, had you not make me call my database.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's 2 deals in 1 year just by simply picking up the phone and making a phone call. And the funny thing is, going back to these agents that have less than 100-person database, they're not doing anything magical. They're not picking up the phone and giving their clients these cheesy scripts. We were just talking, we have an agent every year for Easter. She has her entire database and she knows exactly which families have kids. And she goes and makes Easter baskets for all their kids. She goes to Hobby Lobby and probably drops, I don't know, $100, $200 on candy and baskets and fake plastic grass, and then goes and hand delivers them to her clients. And that right there will yield her multiple referrals every single year for dropping $200.
Yep. That's it. Establishing meaningful connections with your database. And you always talk about something, you always say, Zillow has made money, has become Zillow. And when I say money, I mean to the tune of billions. of dollars from agents selling their database, right?
Inadvertently.
They are betting on the fact that when a consumer goes to Zillow and looks at a property, they are going to feed that consumer very specific agent information for those specific agents that pay Zillow to be presented on their page. So let's just think about this for a second, guys. If you have a buyer that you worked with 3 years ago and you haven't talked to that buyer in 3 years, and they go to Zillow and Zillow says, hey, here's, Dathan Aragon. He's an amazing agent. He's da-da-da-da-da. Call him. This is the person you want to talk to. And they talk to me, I'm going to sell them on using my services. When the reality is, you should have been communicating with them and contributing value to them for the entire 3 years. At that point, I wouldn't stand a chance because they're like, nope, Nathan is my agent. He brings me value. He brings my kids an Easter basket every year. I mean, this guy's fantastic. He cares about me. He cares about my needs. So I think that's really what we're getting at, guys. I think one of the best ways that you can ensure and really create that peace of mind, a couple things, peace of mind, right? Understanding workflow, like just having a framework to organize your day, and then having a predictable business. Okay. These are kind of the objectives that we're trying to achieve, but that is all done through communicating with your database as your primary function for generating business, not internet leads. While that could be a percentage of it, the ultimate goal here is for you to establish a referral-based business that is going to continue to pay you year after year after year after year. So we talked about client organization. Number 2, system of organization. Nathan, what do you have to say about a system?
First off, just like going back to exactly what you said, system's going to be whatever you actually can consistently use. Ideally, that would be a CRM, but we understand they can be complicated, they can be cumbersome, but it's really something where that you can wake up every single day and it tells you exactly what you need to do. Going back to the database size, if your database is 30 people, congratulations, you got a really easy job, because all you really need to do is you need to contact one person a day. That's it. And if you can contact that one person a day, I guarantee it's going to pay dividends 90 days from now, just to reach out and say, hey, how you doing? And we're going to do a whole nother segment on exactly what you can say and do to, speak to these people, because I get it. A lot of people are scared. We were just talking about how we have agents on completely opposite ends of the spectrum. We have agents that really don't work their database at all, but do a ton of business because they're closing Zillow leads. They're paying Zillow thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month, or they're cold calling expired withdrawals, or, they're generating leads somehow, but they're basically not coming from their database. Those people, a lot of times, are scared to call their database and they don't know what to do. And then we have agents on the opposite end of the spectrum who aren't making any money, maybe because they don't know how to generate leads, or they're not good at cold calling, but they're also scared to generate or to speak to their database. So getting a good system in place and being really, really organized and figuring out, okay, who are my people that I'm going to go to lunch with? Who am I going to call every 30 days? Who are the people that, I'm just going to put them on an email list because they were asshole clients, and if they send me business, great. If not, whatever. So yeah, having an actual system in place, it goes back to that peace of mind. It's going to give you peace of mind knowing that, I wake up, I do this, and then you can get to your reactionary work, the day-to-day scramble of getting stuff from lenders and title companies.
Well, and the reality is we're all humans. Our brains only have so much capacity to retain information. And so even if you're working with 80 people, remembering who has kids, who doesn't, when they bought their house, when they sold their house, details that establish that rapport and that connection. And we got to write that down, guys. That's not something that, we can just remember off the top of our heads. So, I think a system of organization is really important. And again, I don't care what you use, whether it's, Excel spreadsheet, you've got to have some sort of system, whether, Excel, whether it's Top Producer, KV Core, Boomtown. I mean, there's 100 of them out there. It doesn't matter which one you use. So we have the system of organization, obviously gather your clients, organize your clients. To Nathan's point, put those clients that you're like, I don't really want to work with these people, but if they send me business, all right, I'll take it. Put them in a file, but put the really good ones that you want to continue a relationship with in another file, and organize those clients. I don't care if it's 10 people, guys. Doesn't matter. And by the way, you can fire a client. I just want to be clear about that. Don't work with anybody. I mean, Kevin and I get stuff all the time about, this client's driving me crazy. Guys, no money is worth your peace of mind and your mental well-being. So if you have a client that's difficult, that you just don't want to work with, okay, don't work with them. The third point that I want to bring up here, which I think is incredibly important, even, whether it's working a database, whether it's assembling your team, it really sets the foundation for what that agent-client relationship looks like. And that is a communication plan. Okay. When I was in production and I met someone for the first time, that was a big part of our first meeting. We would sit down. Some may call it a buyer consultation or a listing appointment or whatever you want to call it, having coffee. But that was a big part of that conversation, guys, was the communication plan. How do you want to be communicated with, right? Is it, text, email, phone calls? How often do you want to be communicated with? This is really important information to know so that you can customize your communication with your database or with your clients. If someone says, listen, I like to hear from you every single week, and you reach out to them every month or just when you feel it's relevant, then they're going to develop a problem with you because they clearly communicated that they want to be updated every week. And then post deal communication. Do you want to hear from me every quarter? Do you want to hear from me every month? Whatever the case may be, establishing that communication plan is really, really critical. And this extends not only to your services, but to any of your team. You can then relay what that communication plan is to your lender partner, right? To your title company. You are in charge of how that information and how frequently information is communicated to your clients. So I would highly recommend sitting down and sort of organizing your thoughts on a communication plan and what you want that conversation to look like with your client, because it really, guys, it sets the foundation for a relationship. How many times would we be like, God, this person's bugging me, oh my gosh, if this person calls me one more time, I'm going to lose it, because we have not clearly communicated how we want to be communicated with. So communication plan is key. Nathan, do you have anything you want to add to communication?
Yes. I was going to say it's both ways. I think that, you need to tell them how you operate as a business as well.
Sure.
When you go into your local bank or the grocery store or the vet's office or the doctor's office, they're going to tell you how they operate. And I understand that our business is a little bit different, but, how many of you can actually call your doctor on their cell phone any hour of the day? Most likely you can't. You can call the doctor's office and they'll have like a nurse's line that you can get a hold of. Or, hey, we communicate through the portal. If you have a question that needs to get answered ASAP, believe it or not, go on the portal, submit a ticket, and we will respond to you within less than 24 hours. So I think it's very important that you communicate that as well. And then moving forward, to me, the communication plan also is how you're going to communicate with your database after that deal is done, right? So are you going to do client appreciation events? Are you going to drop Easter baskets off, around Easter time? Are you going to call them? Are you going to go to lunch with certain people? And we're going to get into that in these upcoming calls as to, how you should organize and which people you should, take to lunch or just give a phone call. But I think you need to get all of those plans in place. And it's actually, we could probably go on for a long time on this because we run across the same thing with communication, even just simple stuff like the MLS. We get so many agents that go set a client up on the MLS and they don't tell that client what they can expect to see from the MLS. And then what does the client do?
That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, they get frustrated and they're like, well, I'm just going to go to Zillow. And then they look on Zillow or they go to some other agent's IDX and they get bad data, bad information. And they're calling you saying, I want to see this property. And you're going, well, that property doesn't even exist. And it's, it just turns into this snowball effect when really, if you had just communicated from the get-go, like, hey, I'm going to set you up on the holy grail of home searches, which is through the MLS. This is the most accurate data. And I get it. The MLS is not the most friendly user interface, but that is the most accurate data that they could get. And it just saves you that headache of having your clients send you Zillow listings that don't exist. Even listings from your own IDX, if you're on KV Core or Boomtown, any of these third-party companies, they may be pulling in bad data that's going to your clients. And it's all about that, that communication, setting those standards up front, having those meetings, and not really flying, by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, guys, we want this to be an ongoing conversation. Again, I'm going to put up here these 3 things that this are kind of like your action items that we're encouraging that you take a look at and evaluate. Look at your clients. What does your current database look like? Who does it consist of? Where is it, do you have clients in there, from 5 years, 10 years, 2 years? Like, what does that database look like? And let's start organizing it. Let's start thinking about how we can put these different clients in different buckets, right? 2, a system of organization. How are you currently organizing that? And really start thinking about, habits that you may begin in a day, that you may begin to do, these different habits that are going to have you checking in with your database regularly. What sort of habits do you need Not what I need, not what Nathan needs, but what habits do you need to establish in order for you to begin to work your database regularly? And then a third, communication plan. You know, if you guys have some communication plans that you've provided for your clients, let us know. We want to hear about it. We really want this to be an exchange of ideas, guys, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Market shifting, so we want to pool ideas together that work. So this is really kind of our first time doing this, and we're going to experiment with how this plays out. But if you guys have ideas, post them in the comments. If you're in Facebook or YouTube, we'll address that next week. If you have questions, post it there. We are not live in All City Connect, but we will post this in All City Connect. So however you're watching this, make some comments, give us some feedback. You know, talk to us about things that have worked for you with regard to database organizing, staying in touch with your database, and establishing a communication plan with your clients. And so I guess next week, Nathan, let's we can start kind of moving down the road into really working your database.
Yeah. No,
what do we need to do? What are the baby steps?
Yeah, next week we'll dive into starting to help you guys collect that database, where to go collect it from, where to put it at. Like we said, this is truly baby steps. We're not even going to suggest CRMs to you probably until week 3 or 4, because the reality is if we were to put you on a CRM right now, you'd probably just be overwhelmed with the technology anyways. And most people, although I don't recommend it, you could probably work your database from your phone or an Excel spreadsheet. But eventually you do need to get that into some kind of a system that you know you can log into, and it's just going to tell you what you need to do every day, and it just gives you that peace of mind. So be prepared. Next week there will be homework.
Yeah, we are going to give homework. So yeah, folks, that's it. Next Thursday, 1 o'clock. And like I said, you know, give us some feedback. What are some obstacles that you're facing when it comes to implementing and working a database? Because that is one thing that I know for certain. You know, working your database is the key to a profitable and predictable business, period. You know, that's something that you are going to be able to generate business in any market. Up, down, doesn't matter. You know, you will be able, you know, if you effectively work your database, and if you can establish those meaningful connections with your clients, and if you can continue to demonstrate your value even after you close on a home for them, then you are not going to have any problems. I promise you guys. I promise you. So we want to make sure to give you guys a plan. We will see you next week. Nathan, do you want to add anything else before we take off?
No, I don't want to scare anybody. I want them to all show up.
Yeah, guys. So so next week we'll be here again Thursday at 1 o'clock. Please give us some fuel for next week's show by commenting, you know, posting questions, anything you want in the comment section of either Facebook Collaborative Group or All City Connect, or this is, I think, live on YouTube as well. So if you happen to be subscribed to YouTube, leave the comment there. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys. We will see you next week. Take care.
Bye, everybody.